Hey guys, what's up? I'm Ombarus, and today I want to talk to you about memory. Because for the past few weeks, I've been developing this prototype of a game that's called Solar Rogue, working name. And I've been implementing a bunch of different things. So I had a list of everything I wanted to do in a certain order. So I had thinking about my data storage system. That's done. It's JSON. I wanted to have basic interaction, be able to move around, be able to look at stuff and pick up stuff, drop stuff, shoot stuff, and so on. That's also done. Of course, it's not finished, but the basic concept is implemented and working. And then I wanted to make sure I had a good idea of how to do the procedural generation. That's also done. There's still work to be done, but the basic concept is there. And I wanted to have a basic AI to make sure I could work with the system I was planning to do. And that's also working, kinda. I mean, I want the ship to be shooting and stuff like that, but for now, he's running away. That's fine enough. But I have a few more things I need to do, but not that many before I can start thinking about the next step I want to take. Last thing I really want to implement is the scanner. And the scanner, it means having a limited field of vision. Thing is my game is happening in space, and there isn't really any light to speak of, except maybe the light of the sun. And that's not what I'm talking about. In space, I'm thinking your vision is going to be decided by how powerful your scanner is, the scanner that you have equipped on your ship. And that will allow you to find planets in solar system you arrive in and also detect enemy ships and even perhaps give you more information about like how rich in hydrogen a planet is or how much HP a planet has left and so on. But to do something like that, I need to think about everything that it implies. Because right now in my game, you can see everything. When you drop into a solar system, you see the ships, you see the planets, you see the sun, you see everything. How do you hide stuff from the player, and how do you how do you expose to him the things that he's seen? Um, so it involves kind of two things. First, I need to be able to show him where he's been inside the level, but that's the fog of war. And there's another thing that's, I think, very important with this is that if a player has seen an item and this item goes out of the range of his scanner, then he needs to remember this item, but it's not the actual item because if an AI was to pick it up or something like that, then this item will still be there for the player, but in the game it would be gone or it would have moved somewhere else. And if the player sees it again, encounter it somewhere else, or if he goes back to where it was, then the position needs to update. And this is a little bit more complicated than I thought. When I started looking at how to do that, in my original prototype, you might see here in the corner, I had the ship moving around and I had dots to show the range of the scanner, and where you had explore was kind of full of dots, and where you hadn't seen was nothing, just black. And ships would appear and disappear when they get into the range of your scanner. But I need it to be a little bit more complex than that for the final game. I want the player to remember seeing a ship at that spot. And even if he goes out of there, maybe the ship's position won't be updated anymore, but he will remember that there was a ship in this vicinity. There's actually more to that. He might even be able to highlight this memory or this ghost of the ship he saw and see information about it, like how many HP it had left the last time he saw it, or for I don't know if there was like in NetHack, for example, you could look at the wand and you might see how many charge it has left. Even if this item has been picked up by another AI and even used so that it doesn't actually have that much charge left. And then if you go back to this space, it's going to be changed position, it's going to have a change description or something like that. Even in NetHack, you even have polymorph, so an item you saw might have been hit by a polymorph ray, and it might not even be the same item anymore, but it's still kind of the same object. And all this has to be managed. And so that's why I decided to create a whole new system for managing the memory of the player. So you can see in the corner here, I'm highlighting a little bit how I decided to implement the memory system for the generation of the ghost memory. I'm registering on the on move event so that the memory can check every time something moves if it's gone out of range of the scanner of the player or if it's gone in range of the player scanner. And I'm going to be creating kind of ghost objects that are going to be copies of the actual object, but with a special component called the memory component that will have information about like the actual real object it's referencing, and maybe some information about how to display it as a ghost. Because I don't want I want the visual to be changed when it's a memory. The easiest thing I could think of was to have some kind of desaturation to be applied, and that got me into looking into how Godot handles shaders and this kind of stuff. So I even went and created a simple desaturation shader with a single uniform that I can pass to set how much desaturation I want. I found some cool script on the internet about how to visually properly desaturate your sprite so that the color, when you're half desaturated, the color stays at the proper illumination level, considering that your eyes don't see exactly the same amount of light and so on. So all of this was pretty cool this week. You can see right now that there's a lot of to do, and there's also a lot of comments. That's because a lot of it is still work in progress. I kind of put once I had figured out what I wanted to do, I built the skeleton, and then I put kind of that on the back burner because I started thinking about the field of vision. And the field of vision is something that you see in a lot of game, sometimes called fog of war. You have it in like games in RTS is very common, like in StarCraft, for example. You have it in a lot of role-playing game, like Path of Exile, for example, when you're exploring dungeons. The dungeon is kind of developing as you move forward, and you have it in some in NetHack where you're when you're moving through the dungeon, you're gonna see some rooms appear, and the corridor is gonna be the map is gonna be created as you move forward. I want to create something similar to that, and I spent incredibly a lot of time thinking about how I'm going to design that because in my game I don't have rooms, I don't have walls, I don't have that much stuff. It's space. There's a lot of empty space in between everything, and I have to show how the player is going to handle that. And really, I spent hours and hours designing the system in my head, and now I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to implement it, not just in Godot, but in general. I kind of expected because it's you see it everywhere, even in games like Starbound, and you have flashlight and dynamic lighting is something that you have in every game. I kind of thought it would be something simple to implement, but I'm really struggling to figure out what's the best way. I have a couple of ideas on how to do it, and that's why I've been exploring shaders, generating mesh in code, and so on. But I'm hitting speed bumps everywhere, and honestly, I want to make another episode just about that because I'm still working on this and I'm still trying to figure out, and I want to give myself another week and I want to show you all my work that I've been doing these last couple of days, just trying to implement this kind of fog of war or field of vision kind of thing. And I hope that next week it's going to be finished and I'll be able to show you that. But for now, I'm going to just leave it at the memory system that I came up with. And I hope you enjoyed this episode, and see you guys in my next episode.